Hey, welcome back to Lightworker Training. My name is Tatiana, and I'm so grateful to be joining with you today. Man, it's summertime, and I have been in herb heaven, just growing herbs, harvesting herbs, drying herbs, processing herbs, making herbal medicine, studying herbs, and just soaking it all in. It's been so great, but I have been missing making videos. So I'm so glad to be back on track with you today because I want to talk about the third reason why your intuition might suck. Okay, so these are just three things that came right off the top of my head, the most common things that I see happening. Of course, there are other reasons why your intuition might suck. These are just things that I've seen come up again and again, not only with myself, obviously, been there, done that, right? Had all these issues and worked through them, still working through some of them, let's be real. But I see this coming up with students and clients over and over again. So hopefully, even if maybe not all of this resonates with you, it'll at least give you some ideas of things that you could investigate for yourself. So part three of why your intuition sucks is, in a word, actually two words, trust issues, right? Trust issues. So how do you know if you have trust issues? Well, have you ever felt like you're trying to get a read on something and it has this energy of you're kind of going down the road of life with your hands just clenched on the steering wheel, just white knuckling it, and it feels like the car wants to kind of drift over this way, and you're like, no. You're just trying so hard to steer it this way that you've decided is the way, even though maybe the universe had some other ideas for you, or your higher self was like, hey, there's a roadblock up there. If you go this way, you're like, no, I don't want to go. Okay, right? So, how many times has this happened, right? Where rather than being open to the possibility that there could be something right about going in this other direction, we're like, nope, I already made up my mind. This is where I want to go. Um, who I don't care if my infinitely wise higher self, thinks I should maybe save myself a shitload of time suffering. I've decided I want this path of suffering. So we've all been there, and I'm laughing about it, but it's really painful when you're in that place and you're so clamped down in this control energy. That kind of white knuckling it energy really comes from a place of fear. And anytime you're in a place of fear, it's a really dreadful, just uncomfortable place to be. And when that energy is triggered, it's, like I said in part one, you're probably not grounded, can't really get good intuitive information or even think clearly, logically, when your energy is not grounded. And same with number two, right? So all of these things kind of go together. If you've already decided this is the way I'm going, then you're not really willing to know anything else. Which is what I talked about in part two, was you're not willing to know the truth of the matter. So the truth of the matter might be, hey, this way is going to cause you more suffering. This way is going to actually facilitate maybe a more graceful, easeful learning experience for you. Hey, either way, we have opportunities to learn, right? You can get pushed by the pain or pulled by the pleasure. Either way, you've got lots of opportunities for learning, for healing, for growth. So it's really your choice. I personally have come to a place where I just trust my intuition no matter what. Come to find out, like as I get more information as time goes on, I see, oh, that's why I was led to this, led to that, told this or told that, or felt like this is what I should do. At the time, I didn't have all of the information. But as time went on, I saw like the reason for it made sense, right? So there's this eternal part of ourselves that can see through all the dimensions of time and space, so past, present, future are all happening now, but we can't really perceive that from this point of view. But there is a part of ourselves that can access that information. So wouldn't it be great if we could connect with that part of ourselves, get clear information and be able to act on it, and then see the results of our actions and go, wow, cool, that experiment worked out pretty good, or that experiment didn't work out that good. You got to just try it. You got to do something. You have to take action in the world. Otherwise, none of this shit works. Okay. You really have to apply it. It's not enough to know it, to feel it. You have to actually act on it. That's part of being in a physical vessel on this planet or plane of existence, however you want to think about it. Okay. So, these trust issues, let's get into it, because this is where the stuff is, right? The stuff that we need to work on, the stuff that kind of lurks behind the scenes and tends to throw a monkey wrench into the works, the stuff that ends up being a manifestation of that white knuckling, that clamp down, that need for control, right? Hey, you know what? We can control ourselves. But this kind of control I'm talking about is like you're trying to micromanage the universe. You ever tried to micromanage the universe? I wouldn't know anything about that. So these trust issues, it's important to recognize that it always goes back to some unresolved trauma. I've talked about this a lot. When you peel back the layers of what's happening on the surface and you dig down, eventually you'll get to some kind of unresolved trauma. And I give a process for how to do that inner world work in a video called Go Within or Go Without. It's in the part 2 playlist, The Foundations of Healing, where I talk about trauma. I think. I think it's there. But it's called Go Within or Go Without. I'll describe a process to you of how to do that inner world work. And I don't care how you do it, right? That's just one process. It's very simple. It's very profound. There are lots of ways of approaching this inner world work, but it's pretty much non-negotiable. If you don't go in and do this work, it's like that. It's like what I was saying about, you have to take action. There are certain things in this realm I have not found any way around. I think it must be inherent to part of the reason why we come and have this experience, right? So we have this unresolved trauma, and as far as I've seen, we all have it to some extent, and I think that this really, I'm just going to call it an insane death cult of war and genocide, okay? Like this insane death cult that we live in, whether you think you've been traumatized or not, I'm going to guess you've been traumatized, okay? to a lesser or greater degree. I see people do this all the time and they say, well, my life wasn't so bad. Those folks, they really had a hard time. I didn't have it so hard. That's not going to help you do your inner work. You got to just face the fact that you got some damage in there somewhere, and don't compare it to anybody else's. Everybody's got their own shit to do. And you saying like, oh, well, mine's not so bad, isn't actually getting you to the place of doing it, right? Okay, so this is just the comparing. It's not helping anybody. It's not helping you. It's not helping them. They got their thing to do. You got your thing to do, okay? One of my teachers used to say, compare and despair, which it's true. There's, you're just going into a place of despair. You're not getting anything done. So it's really important to do this work, to recognize there was some harm, there was some trauma, there was something that never quite got resolved. Inner children, I talk about this a lot. They just need good enough love and good enough protection, and they usually don't get either one. Especially protection, right? I mean, well, both, but yeah, I mean, it's a shit show out there. I'm not going to get into it. I've got a lot of opinions about this stuff. I'm not going to get into it. But suffice it to say, you got to do that inner work, right? Because the trauma incurred as children tended to be things that were coming from external authority figures, right? There's abuse or shaming or threatening, weird like power things, being forced to do things that we didn't want to do by people who had larger, more powerful bodies, who had more access to resources and information, and we were completely dependent on them for our survival. So whatever mom or dad or the priest or the teacher or whoever, whatever they said, whatever they did, we had to go along with it, right? So a lot of these external authority figures really didn't take good enough care of us. They didn't teach us the correct things. They didn't model the correct behavior for us. And so all of that imprinting goes straight in. When you're very young, you don't have a filter. You don't even have a concept of separation between you and others until you get to be, I think, like maybe 3 or 4 years of age is what it feels like to me. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a specialist in this, but the baby, the toddler is very merged with the parents. So it's just that intergenerational trauma can be just passed down along the line. Then there's all the things in the environment, other potentially toxic and abusive family members, what have you. We all know it's just awful, some of the things that go on with the children. And I believe that the whole school system is extremely problematic and traumatizing for children. I think a lot of the birth process of how many children come into the world is very traumatizing as well. So it's just a lot of layers of stuff. And it's all perpetrated by, teachers, doctors, policemen, authority figures, right? Parents, grandparents, family members, these are the people that are supposed to be taking care of us. And they let us down. Not all of them, not all the time, right? But if it was all great, we wouldn't have this trauma. We wouldn't have these issues. Okay. So trust issues, in my experience, always traces back to something like this. The person you should have been able to trust, your own mother, your own father, your own uncle, your own whatever, didn't take care of you. Sometimes they did the opposite. Sometimes they did the opposite to a very extreme degree. Okay. So the more of that you experience, the more you have to deal with this toxic shame energy and the trust issues, right? So what happens is this goes straight in, we get all this imprinting from the external authority, then it imprints within us and manifests as the toxic inner authority figure. So our job in the inner world is to deprogram the toxic authority figure program that's been downloaded into us when we were very impressionable, to rewrite that trauma-based program. I have a video about rewriting trauma-based programs. It's in that same playlist, number 2. Talk a lot about trauma in that playlist, part 2 playlist. So that becomes how we kind of run the show from within us. And so what we need to do is deprogram that and actually reparent ourselves in a way that we don't even know how to do, because we never had a good role model to show us. So isn't that fun? We get to figure this out. We get to like imagine. Our sacred imaginations are so key and so powerful. We get to imagine, what would it be like to have had that love, to have had that protection, to have had someone show up and really be able to care for us, really be able to affirm us and support us and build healthy self-esteem and a capacity to be able to rise to these challenges and be strong within ourselves and be able to put our will out into the world in a really powerful way, to be able to trust our inner knowing, our inner teaching, right? Intuition, inner teaching, our inner tutor, our inner teacher, our inner authority, right? So the imagination is so key. And you already know what that inner child didn't get. You already know what the wound is, even if you've kind of just locked it away in a little box somewhere. If you stop, if you breathe, if you tune in and you see, like, okay, I've been feeling that energy Tatiana talked about, where I'm just white knuckling the steering wheel of life. and I remember her saying it was like there's an inner thing happening of some old trauma where I've gone into this mistrust, right? Mistrusting my inner authority because I was programmed by a toxic external authority. Okay, so when was the first time I felt this? And just go with it, go with whatever comes up, go into that memory, just make it up. It doesn't matter. Just who cares if you're making it up? Just go in there, change it, come back, and see where you're at when you come back. Okay, so this shifting from the toxic inner authority to the loving inner authority, the loving inner parent, the loving adult, the loving spiritual adult, is really what we need to embody, really embody. And we won't really embody it unless we tune in, do the inner work, and then take action on it. You have to take action on it, otherwise it doesn't count. It's not enough to know. You have to do something, right? So we do the reparenting, we heal all these parts, we reintegrate these energies of those lost, fragmented parts of self. We love them back into the wholeness of ourselves. And from that wholeness, we can start to make better choices, get clearer messages, because it's not cluttered up with all these, inner critic voices, the toxic, shaming, inner toxic authority, right? The powers that shouldn't be, as they say, right? there's a loving parent there that's protecting and loving the inner child. And so the inner child feels safe. So you in your body can feel safe. You can be grounded. You can be willing to know the truth, right? And you can trust that your higher self has your back, that the universe has your back, that you have what it takes, that you can receive a message. You don't have to do it, but sooner or later you have to do something. You don't have to do that one particular thing that you gotta hit on. You don't have to do it right away. Sit with it, process the feelings that are coming up around it. And then once you've processed it, then it's time to take action. When you're ready, right? Take action and then see the result. It's all an experiment. It's like science, right? You got an idea of something. I seem to be getting this message that maybe I should be getting into this line of work. Or maybe I should think about moving. Or maybe I should go to this place for lunch. Some decisions seem more high stakes than others, but with intuition, it doesn't matter. Eventually, it gets to the point where whether you're going to keep your job, quit your job, live here, live there, have a taco, have a burger, all of those choices will have the same amount of charge on them, which is just neutral, no charge. But that takes practice. So we have to have this lived practice of tuning in, acting on it, and going, that worked out, or that didn't work out. Where can I kind of bring that back to the lab and pick it apart and see where maybe I got off track, right? So these experiences build this trust. We cannot build our trust muscle unless we are doing the exercises, right? The exercises are doing the things in the real world that we feel called to do. Okay? I think that's pretty clear. So trust issues, hey, you know what? We've all got them. We've all had to deal with this stuff. And trust me. No, don't trust me. Remember, I said, don't believe anything I say. Just stay in your discernment. But I will say that this is something that you can experiment on and see if I'm right or not. But in my experience, it gets easier and easier and easier as you become more masterful. Now, you will keep having challenges. So, not sorry for all those folks out there that said, hey, you know what? If I just do this Lightworker stuff, my life's going to be a piece of cake. Hey, your life is going to be filled with so much joy and so much more ease and empowerment and possibility. However, you will still continue to be challenged. Otherwise, it'd be kind of boring, right? It's like you're always doing the Monday crossword puzzle. You'd never get to, advance through, and you'd just be bored if you're always doing the Monday crossword puzzle. Like, you got to move on to the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday crossword puzzle. Although the Sunday crossword puzzle is kind of its own thing. I always thought the Saturday ones were the hardest. Anyway, that is a sure sign that this message is complete if I'm rambling about crossword puzzles. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for joining in, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time on Lightworker Training. Bye for now.